Okay, so morning again. I think we're going to go ahead and start. If anybody else will join us, it will be more than welcome. So my name is Marius. I'm with ProVision, and today we have the pleasure in this webinar to present you one of our new vendors, which is Reblaze. A few words about ProVision. We are a value-added distribution company of IT security solution in Romania. We've been on the market since 1997. And we have a large portfolio of clients from all verticals where we provide all type of security solutions. So we're specialized on that. We have a department of professional services as well, which can assist clients with choosing the best solution for their needs and also to implement it. And we're always in the search of new vendors and new technologies. And this is where Reblaze come into place. In this continuous pursuit, we identified Reblaze as a very promising vendor and very fast growing in the world of cloud, where most of the clients are moving. So we decided to partnership with them and try to present them as much as possible, because we really like their solution, and we think there is a great future here on the market for this type of services. So my colleagues from Reblaze will go into details and we'll have a technical demo for that, but mostly what they do is web security. They're specialized on the web, so they can do WAF and DDoS and API protection and so on. We are very excited to be with them today, and I'm looking also forward to see the demo and the presentation. Thank you so much, and Oren, it's to you. All right. So Oren, are you there? Hello, hello. Oren, can you hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear me? Hello, hello.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sorry for that.
No worries.
I didn't hear anything. So, okay, I will just share the presentation and start.
Beautiful. So you heard me, right? I was not on mute.
I heard you, and I will start.
Beautiful.
Now.
That means all others heard me. It's all good. Thanks a lot, Oren.
Okay. Okay, so I will start talking about the Reblaze cloud-based security solution. Basically, I will explain a little bit about the challenges and then dive into the solution we provide. In a nutshell, we protect web applications, websites, APIs, etc. I will explain exactly how we do that. So if we look at the attacks going on in the last few years, I think we see a trend of bots attacks. If we look at this pie chart, we can see that out of all the traffic today, 2/3 of it is coming from bots. And out of the bots, the majority of them are bad bots. malicious bots that are attacking websites. As a result, and I'm sure each of you hear that all the time in the news, etc., we see attacks happening all the time on web assets of different companies, small to very large. And these attacks create many different issues, such as site downtime or a degraded experience. Site performance is suffering. More serious attacks can be stealing of data or account information, site breaches. So there are many different attacks creating many different damages. From the other end, we can look at the current solutions in the market. So there are obviously web security solutions for many years, but these lack some capabilities. First of all, there are very few solutions that cover all different aspects of web security. So there are many silo-based solutions that cover a certain part of this problem, such as web application firewall, etc. But there are very few that actually cover everything. In addition to that, today, as you know, many companies are moving to the cloud, and the majority, almost all the solutions today, even if they are cloud solutions, what they call cloud is actually using their own infrastructure. So they are external to the customer's cloud, to the public clouds, such as Amazon, Google, etc. In addition to that, these solutions in many cases are challenging using customers that are running on different regions in the world, like global companies, etc. And I think a very important problem is that they are very resource intensive, meaning that these solutions require a lot of human intervention in terms of installation, implementation, ongoing maintenance, updates of security definitions, etc. So, as you can see here, there are many solutions, but they are pretty limited. I will jump into talking about two case studies that we have, and through that I will also explain some additional pains that companies today suffer from. So one of our customers is a large airline in Asia that approached us a few years ago. The issue of this airline was basically costing. The way that their costing is structured is that basically they have to pay for every API call coming to their systems. And since there is a lot of traffic going to their system, not most of it not from legitimate customers, they had to pay a very large amounts of money every year for traffic that is actually creating zero value for them. So they approached us a few years ago and they asked us to get control over their traffic. And basically, we implemented Reblaze and started to analyze the traffic and block all the traffic that is not necessary, that are not prospective customers that are willing to purchase some airline tickets. And just by blocking this bot traffic, we save them $600,000 every year. So that's not necessarily a security issue, but it's definitely something that created a very high cost that was unnecessary. Another case study is a company that you can, I'm sure that you know, eBay. eBay is actually one of our biggest customers today. They came to us probably almost a year ago from one of the cloud providers that basically wanted to implement cloud infrastructure for eBay. As you know, eBay is very popular and hundreds of millions of users approaching it all the time. But the problem is that they have a lot of bot traffic as well. And they're very scared that when they will move to the cloud, in this case it was Google Cloud, basically, they will be suffering from all these bots. So basically, Google approached us and we created a bot management solution mainly based on the Google Cloud Armor as well as Reblaze solution integrated in order to protect the eBay infrastructure in the cloud, and basically we support eBay today globally in their cloud implementation. Going back a little bit and talk about Reblaze in a nutshell, and then I will drill down into the solution itself. Reblaze was founded about 8 years ago. We wanted to provide the best web security solution that is based on the cloud, but is also very easy to implement and maintain. That was the vision that we had in mind. Today, we have more than 300 customers globally. As you can already, I shared with you, we have very large customers, such as eBay, airlines, etc., but also medium-sized companies. I will show you some names later on. And we protect more than 30,000 web applications and APIs and more than 8 billion HTTP requests every day. And so you can see we are well spread across all continents and most of the countries. If I'll drill down into the different components, I think it's important first to mention, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that the vision was to create a single all-in-one solution, and that's basically what we provide today. We provide an all-in-one solution versus silo approach solution. So all components that I will describe in a second here are a part of the Reblaze solution. When a customer comes to Reblaze and get our solution, we will get all these components as a part of that. Now, a certain customer can say that his main issue at the moment is bot management, as I shared with you the eBay story. But nevertheless, he will get all the other capabilities of the solution in addition to that. Even if he decides that one of them is the focus, we believe that security needs to be done from all different angles. You cannot protect a certain door, but leave all the other doors open. And that's why we developed this solution from day one, this holistic approach. The solution is cloud native. It was developed on the public clouds from day one, on the Google, Amazon, Azure of the world. Again, I will talk about that a bit further later on. But it's important that when we say a cloud native solution, it means that we basically leverage all the cloud strengths and capabilities. And this is a very base part of the solution that we provide today. In addition to that, we can provide our solution in a fully managed way, but it's up to the customer to decide how much involvement you would like to get from us. So, as I explained before, if the customer would like it to be almost zero touch from his angle, we will do everything for him, and he will get a fully managed solution maintained by us and supported by us. If the customer would like to be more involved, he can obviously be the one managing it, and we will support him. So we have different service levels that we maintain with our different customers. So going down to the solution itself, as you can see here, the solution includes DDoS protection, both in the network layer and in the application layer. Today, in the last couple of years, the more advanced attacks are on the application layer. And network DDoS is something that is becoming more and more commodity as time passed, and most of the public clouds stop network DDoS attacks by design. So basically, what we can add on top of that is mainly the layer 7, the application level DDoS attacks, which again are becoming very popular lately. In addition to that, as I explained, we provide bot management. So we have biometric behavioral analysis. By measuring different parameters, can basically decide whether a certain request is a human being request or a bot. And by that, we can decide if we want to allow it or stop it. In addition to that, we have next generation web application firewall. We have traffic analysis, which you will see in a second. When we move to the demo, you will be able to see the full visibility one can get from our GUI. In addition to that, we provide auto-scaling capabilities, which are almost unlimited. It's very important for large DDoS attacks that the solution you have can auto-scale to very large scales. Because, again, if a certain solution uses its own infrastructure, it will always be limited. It will be limited to the size of infrastructure this vendor can provide. Reblaze doesn't have its own infrastructure. As I mentioned, we use the public cloud. We use basically, for a certain customer, we can use all the infrastructure in the world of Google, Amazon, Microsoft combined, and other cloud providers. So basically, we have almost unlimited access to infrastructure, so we can basically prevent attacks that are very, very large, probably the largest that are known today. In addition to that, we also provide CDN and load balancing that are fully integrated into the solution. So CDN, if you don't know the term, it's the content delivery network, basically a solution that handle all the static content and support, basically it's used for better performance. Some additional benefits in addition to these core capabilities I just mentioned. We basically build a dedicated virtual private cloud for every customer. Unlike many other solutions that are shared solutions that are using shared environments, we, again, from building the solution 8 years ago, we decided that we will implement a dedicated infrastructure, dedicated cloud for each of our customers in order to make sure that there is no influence between one customer to another. When you have shared environments and one of the websites or customers on this shared environment is attacked, all the others will be influenced because now the environment is attacked. That's why we are basically creating dedicated infrastructures in which no customer is influencing any other. So one can be attacked and the others will be no influence at all. In addition to that, we have DevOps integration, so we can support APIs in order to support mobile applications, etc., that can basically implement the Reblaze challenges as well and get protected. I explained already the fully managed solution. Maybe it's the time to discuss the fact that we have some machine learning capabilities that actually make the system self-learned. So when you implement Reblaze on your web asset, the application, Reblaze will learn the application or the website, will learn the user's behavior, and will adjust all thresholds automatically. So no human intervention needs to be made. And it means basically that the Reblaze system is getting better and better as time passes because it learns the behavior of the user, the behavior of the website and the application, and improves the security rules accordingly. And as I mentioned before, we support and we integrate with all large cloud providers. As you can see, we work with AWS, with Azure, with the Google Cloud, but also with others such as DigitalOcean, Oracle Cloud, the IBM Cloud, Alibaba, etc. We, from our angle, we are platform agnostic, so we don't really care which cloud to use. If it will be up to us, we will choose the cloud that is closest physically to the customer data center, because this way we create almost zero latency. But if the customer is already on the cloud, we will sit on the same cloud environment as the customer is. And this will create, will allow us to basically create a much more secured environment, because the traffic will not need to leave this cloud environment. Once the request will come, for instance, to the Google Cloud, it will stay there because we will check it on the cloud and we will transfer it to the application, which is on the same cloud as well. So this is, I think, one of our big advantages that nobody else can provide, because again, we can sit on the same cloud of the customer. As I mentioned, if the customer is not yet on the cloud, we will implement Reblaze on the cloud that is closest to the data center, and then the traffic will hit us first. And from this moment, after we filtering the malicious traffic, we will pass all the legitimate traffic to the data center of the customer. This is a partial list of some of our customers. You can look at some names that you might know: eBay, Reborn is a large e-commerce site in Asia. We have some TVG Network, is a large TV network in the US, Ferrero Rocher. I think the important thing to say about this slide is not specific names, although you might know some of them. But it's that we can basically, we have experience in supporting almost every vertical that exists today. I think, as you can see, we have e-commerce customers, we have government agencies, we have travel, hotels, chains, and airlines, we have finance institutes, insurance companies, banks, technology companies, and many others. So this is gaming customers. So these are just some of the verticals we support. We support almost every vertical exists today. So just to summarize my part before we move to the demo, the setup information. Our solution, as I explained, is a unified solution. It provides all different components out of the box. Basically, the implementation of Reblaze can take a few minutes under attack time, or under peaceful times, it can take couple of hours, so maybe 2-3 days in maximum. So the implementation is very quickly, and out of the box, as I mentioned, you get everything. It can run on the customer cloud or on the cloud that is closest to the environment, as I mentioned. It can support customers that are working in multi-regions and multi-cloud, so we can support them even if they were on Google and Amazon together. We implement machine learning, as I just explained. We provide single tenant SaaS for each customer. And because we are implemented very close to the customer, we provide almost no latency. Because of our CDN capabilities, in some cases, we can even improve the performance of our customers. So that's it for my part. Maybe we will go now into the setup and demo, and later, if you will have any questions, we'll be very glad to answer them. Yaniv, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thank you, Oren. Let me share my screen. Okay, so hi everyone. In regards to the Reblaze setup, so Reblaze setup is, as Oren mentioned, is based on the cloud. So we leverage from any cloud services that we can take from the cloud. For instance, load balancing, auto scaling, Anycast solution if provided, and also the CDN in some parts are integrated within the Reblaze solution. So when a client on generally is not using Reblaze, his traffic either goes directly from the clients towards the origin, or maybe he has already a CDN in place, so it goes to the CDN and then to the origin. Routing traffic through Reblaze after the setup is done via DNS. So traffic can go either towards Reblaze and then to the origin, or if the customer still wants to use his own third-party CDN, he can use that. It would go to the CDN, from the CDN to Reblaze, and then back to the origin. Reblaze has also a CDN solution, as mentioned. So in that case, if it's implemented, the traffic will be just routed towards Reblaze. Reblaze will take care of CDN inside Reblaze and then route the traffic over to the origin. As for the product itself, so Reblaze is basically, Reblaze basically provides the capability to see, monitor, analyze, visualize the traffic, of course, tweak almost every aspect of settings within the system, and you can provide a very enhanced and tight security solution for your needs. And it's not like a commodity product where you just buy it and no tweaking can be done. There's lots of layers of security that combine within Reblaze. So in Reblaze, we believe that the data itself is the most important part of the solution. Therefore, we derive from the data itself. As you can see on the dashboard, it gives you information specifically for your traffic throughout various types of timescales. For instance, currently we're looking at frame 30 minutes, but it could be different timescales, including historical data. It gives you the ability to see how many requests were being made, how many requests were being identified as human, for instance, how many requests were being engaged with bot mitigation, how many requests were being blocked. And it can give you also for a specific minute, what is the statistics based on that minute. Also, it gives you the ability to look at the response codes. For instance, if your application suddenly start serving back a 404 error, you will see it over here, and you will be able to address it. So it's not just security, it also can help on other level within the organization. It could also show you, of course, the bandwidth, latency, and interesting statistics regarding the traffic for that period of time that we're looking at. So you can see the origin, where the traffic is coming from. You can see the IPs themselves that generate those traffic. You can see Reblaze sessions. You can see the URLs that were being hit. And you can also see the signatures that the system detected for that period of time. Needed to say that some signatures are OWASP top 10, some signatures are Reblaze-based signatures, but in generally, you would see all the information over here. You can also see referrals, file extension, browser signatures or user agents, ACE numbers that have been detected, and also latency based on URLs. All the information over here comes from the data itself. And the data is stored within the log, and you have the power to analyze, visualize, and see, and also filter and get to the bottom of each request. So if you're looking at a single request that you want to analyze, you'll be able to see that. So you see requests that are getting through, you see requests that are getting blocked, you see requests that are getting engaged with bot mitigation, and you'll be able to address that and see the information. If you click on any of those requests, you can see information regarding the request. For example, what is the referrer, what was the size of the request, how long it took the origin to respond back to Reblaze, what was the overall latency for that request. You can also click on the more details and see even more information, such as headers and cookies and arguments. Anything within the dashboard can be filtered. So you can look at the traffic and you can just focus on what you want to see. For instance, if I just want to see the block events, I can just add it to the filter, comma separated, and then I'll be able to see all the block events. If I take those block events and I want to analyze or visualize that in a more graphical way, I can take this filter and I can copy that to the dashboard and see on the dashboard itself what are the block events. So if I filter the dashboard now, I can see the block events themselves and not the rest of the traffic, if you're interested in that. Also, something important with Reblaze is the ability to use in different modes. For instance, I can set one site in a report mode and the other one in an active mode. And in a report mode, usually when doing onboard, you can start in report mode. The system will detect any violations or malicious traffic, but will not block that. It will mark it, so later on the log, you can filter that out and understand what's going on. Also, within the settings, as I mentioned, you have the ability to tweak and set lots of different stuff. You can create different security profile for different places within the application. For example, I have an API profile, and I have a default profile, and I have another profile named No Challenge. You can also set different time rate limits based on locations. So for example, under a rate, I have different rate limits. So those rate limits can be matched against addresses. It could be matched against cookies, against headers, and against arguments. On top of all that, we also have something that we call dynamic rule, which is more like looking at historical behavior of targets. Those could be either IPs, it could be also cookies or headers or any other criteria. At the end of the process, those violators that acted and the behavior of those actors were malicious, they will get into a block ban list. And you can, of course, control whether you want to add it to a blacklist or whitelist or just delete it from the list. We also have some other capabilities such as DNS, CDN that was mentioned, and also SSL management if it runs on your VPC. As for the deployment itself, there are two types of deployment. One deployment would be a SaaS solution where Reblaze manage all the cloud infrastructure, and another deployment could be within your own VPC, where there are two other different types of licensing, but the deployment itself will run within your VPC. Therefore, the security is more enhanced, and of course, network latency reduced to zero. Yeah, one thing that need to mention is that we can also send all the raw logs using syslog protocol. So if you have a SIEM system or some SOC system, we can of course ship the raw log, including all the findings that were identified within those requests, whether or not these are coming from the US or coming from the Tor network or VPN providers, and so on. I think I will leave some time for more question. I just want to show you how the system can help you understand in a very few clicks, analyzing the system, analyzing the traffic, sorry, and getting to the bottom of a certain place in time where you want to analyze. So I'm going to take a larger scale. Let's look at 1 hour of traffic. And then within that 1 hour, I can definitely see a peak over here that I want to analyze and understand what was going on over here. With just few clicks, I can zoom in on that area. And then I can zoom in again, and I can zoom in up to a second. So if I want to get to a bottom of the specific requests that were created, which was over here, I can really go and zoom in on that second and understand that there were 400 requests during that second. And if I look at the sources, I can see that most of the requests were coming from this IP and the rest were coming from other IP. Those are all cloud providers. And I can also look at the targets and see what was the request that they were requesting for. And I can see that 486 requests were coming and hitting towards slash. Okay, so with very few clicks, I can understand what's going on. I can also, if I have a certain place where I had different type of attack, for example, this one was looks like a DDoS, but other attack, you can also use the filter and of course analyze that in more details. On Reblaze, we see lots of types of attacks, as Oren mentioned. Some attacks are very common and very easy to detect, but some attacks are not so easy to detect and may go under radar. Those types of attacks, these are the ones, and also zero-day attacks, and those are the ones that are very hard to address. And with Reblaze, the ability to address, for example, zero-day attack is we have a feature that you can create your own signatures. And with those signatures, you have the ability to drill down within a request, for example, and build a filter of regular expression of attributes from the request, for example, headers, cookies, or whatever, and based on those matching, create an action that could be either a block or it could be also something else. In regards to the other attack, we've seen DDoS attack that were very slow DDoS attack, but the attack itself was aimed toward a very specific place within the application that load the database of those applications. So those types of attack, they might be very slow, very hard to detect. They are not presented in a very nice graph, but it can also be addressed. As I mentioned, we have a very advanced rate limiting capabilities. We have bot management, which is very advanced, and the bot management actually can be divided into 3 sections. So we have an active bot mitigation, which will block any request. We also have a SDK and passive bot mitigation that could be implemented within the pages itself. So binding all those things together, you get a very robust system that can really protect your assets, and you can fine tuning and tailor made it to your application. Any application is different. Some applications are common, for example, WordPress or Drupal or any of those common CMS, but native applications, so we have the SDK, so you can implement that. We also have with the SDK some biometrics, so you can verify whether or not someone who's claiming to be a human actually is a human by understanding whether or not they touch the screen or move their devices and stuff like that. So I will finish with that. I will keep some time for questions. Oren, if you want to take it.
Sure. So this part. Okay, so we are ready now to answer any questions you might have. Technical, non-technical, feel free to ask. We're all here to answer them.
Thank you very much for the presentation. This is Marius. I'm going to ask a first question while my colleagues, maybe they have some others. And this question comes actually from one of my colleagues that he has sent it to me before the presentation. How is Reblaze dealing with the on-prem solutions? So as far as I was convinced, Reblaze was a full cloud solution. But we've seen right before the presentation on website that's actually you can cover on-prem as well somehow. So maybe you can give us a few more details about that. Is the question that definitely needs to be answered. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Yaniv, you want to answer? I will answer.
Yes, I can answer that. So usually on-prem, we have the ability to install our software on an on-prem virtual environment, whether it's a VMware or a KVM or whatever virtual environment is been using. However, running on the cloud, we have the ability to leverage from the cloud. On-prem solution, we are limited in many cases with growth and with bandwidth and other limitations of computing mostly. And with the cloud solution, you're not limited, not with bandwidth and of course not with resources. So we leverage from that and we take advantage of having the best performance that we can give. And also in respect to SLA, we also can provide an SLA where on-prem we cannot provide, of course, an SLA. for the infrastructure, I mean.
Excellent.
Hi,
Thank you.
Adrian here. Thank you for this information. So other than scalability and full managed service by Reblaze, there are differences in features on-prem versus on cloud?
No, the solution is one solution. We don't have differentiation between licensing and of course the deployment. It's a single solution that you get all the features included. Of course, when installing on-prem, there are some other services that we are depending on that need to be implemented. The only thing I think that cannot be provided is the CDN capabilities, because it's provided either by our partnership with Verizon, Edgecast, Google, and other CDN providers such as Fastly and AWS. So I think just the CDN capabilities cannot be set on-prem. It can be set, but as a third, an external solution.
It makes total sense, perfect sense. What about hybrid deployment, where you would have an on-prem instance and also a cloud instance managed by you, and with the ability to switch or to split the workload and so on? Is it possible?
It's very possible. Actually, we have few customers that run in that setup. So because we are a single tenant solution, you have one management console and you can manage multiple deployment. So the deployment could be on 2 different regions within the same provider, or on 2 different providers. And it also could be an on-prem and a cloud-based deployment. And you can control them. Of course, routing the traffic would be done via DNS in that case. But we have customers, as I mentioned, that runs with that setup.
I see. So this also covers the business continuity requests that some customers might have, right?
Yep.
And it's full transparent. The interface is full transparent for the end user, right? For the end customer.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for the answer, Yaniv. I have another question. This is Marius again. We didn't get into much detail regarding the protection of the mobile application or the mobile website. Maybe you can elaborate a bit more about that, because I know it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, so basically mobile applications are web assets that needs to be protected. The problem with native mobile application, unlike web-based mobile application, is that on the web-based, we have a browser, and we cannot do things that we can do with native applications. So with native application, we have an SDK that you can work and of course implement that within the application. And this SDK is very simple. What it does, there's few ways of setting it up, and basically what it does is on each request you can, or on each operation, you can also send a biometric towards Reblaze that will tell us exactly whether there was any movement, not the data itself. We don't need the data. We just need to understand what was going on. But we get biometric, and we can understand and create rules based on that, whether or not there was, for instance, if you have an application that, let's say, somebody needs to log in, and then they can, they do some operation, okay, like adding some friends. So you can check or create rules that would look for any operation, whether or not there was any movement prior to that operation from the device. If the device is steady, it's not moving, then you can also see if there was any touch on the screen. For instance, you can actually follow those sessions, specific sessions, and see whether or not there was any human activity on those devices. And because we can do that, we can create rules, and we can create rate limits based on that, and we create, of course, abnormal detection rules that I show, or historical behavioral rules. So you can ban any violators of the policy of the organization. For example, if you're not allowing operation from non-human activity, then you can, of course, create that. And we can also, of course, set it on a more non-strict way, so it would just block real violators that comes along, maybe if they want to DDoS the system or do any AOT or any other attacks like that.
Thank you very much, Yaniv. All for me. If someone else has any other questions, feel free, please.
I can elaborate a little bit about AOT because it's one of the hottest topic that we've seen lately. AOT basically is account takeover, and it's a very common attack these days. So what attackers are doing mostly, and we've seen that with many of our customers, is that they're taking some database that they found on the darknet, or they bought it, or whatever they did it, and then they try to run the database with the usernames and password against the application. So native application, for instance, usually they don't have a reCAPTCHA or any other things like that. Or if you are not implemented a two-factor authentication, then of course the application is vulnerable to those attacks. And what they do, they take a very large botnet, and they just create lots of requests, and those requests could be a very low in a low ratio. So they can send, for example, from each IP 3 requests and then vanish. So those type of attacks, they are very hard to defend against. But as I mentioned, we have the rate limiting, and we have an advanced rate limiting that we can, for instance, we can rate limit AS number, we can rate limit based on geolocation. We can rate limit almost anything, and we can combine the rate limit. For example, how many different IPs a single user can come from, or how many users a single IP can request for. So we have lots of combination to tackle those types of attack, and we really being successful at blocking those types of attack. Of course, we have lots of layers within the system. So we have the rate limit layer, we have the bot management layer, we have the historical behavior layer, and we have profiling layer, which I didn't show, but any request that comes along in Reblaze, we do some profiling about these clients. For instance, if it's coming from the Tor network, if it's coming from a VPN provider, a cloud provider, or anonymous proxy. So we have those lists, and we also have some blacklist. We're using some, for instance, spam house list. So we profile the user even before we do any other filtering or any other matching against the behavior of that user.
I have a question, Yaniv. For example, I know there are a lot of attacks based on API process authentication hijack, or an attack where the access is bypassed through API directly through the application stream or to the database. Is there any way for Reblaze to counterattack this kind of initiatives?
Yeah, so in the setup, Reblaze will be in front of this application. So all the traffic will route through Reblaze, and Reblaze would analyze that. So we have a way to filter, and you can do content filtering. For instance, whether or not there is a certain header or a certain argument being delivered with the request. So this is the first barrier. And also we can set a rate limit based on the authenticated cookie. So we can say this authenticated cookie can come only from a single IP within a period of time. For instance, within 1 minute, only single IP can request with that same value of authorization header. So if another one try to hijack that session, it will be blocked.
I see. So Reblaze stays between the API and application, not in front of the API, correct?
If you remember the drawing I did, so you have the application and you have the client. So client, it could be either a server if it's an API, it could be also a web browser. It doesn't really matter, but there's the client, and the client create a request. The request from the client towards the application, whether if it's the API application or a web application, Reblaze will be in the middle. It's like a reverse proxy in the middle that analyze the traffic and then forward it over to the application. So we will analyze it. We don't do authentication on Reblaze side, if that's the question. We're just analyzing the traffic itself.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
We are very close to the 1 hour slot. Actually, we are actually even 2 minutes after. So with the risk of going just 1 minute after this time that we allocated, I have a final question, please. What will you define as your main competitors, please, Yaniv? I know it's a tough question, but it will help us out, single out the, and to propose Reblaze instead of other competitors, which I'm sure on the market right now.
Oren, maybe you can answer this question.
Okay, sure. I think there are different types of competitors, and obviously we have detailed explanation and documents explaining the advantages against each of these. I can say that in a nutshell, there are the cloud solutions such as Cloudflare and Incapsula. I think in this case, for instance, Cloudflare, they are much more focused on CDN. They are basically a CDN solution that provides some security. Reblaze is a security solution. This is the main focus of the company from day one, and we provide CDN. So I think it's a different focus of the company. If you compare us to companies like Akamai and companies like that, Perva, many of these are still providing hardware solutions. Also, they are very expensive, very long implementation. So I think our solution will be much easier to implement and maintain. And I think that the top advantage is that we work on the cloud. So I think for customers that are already on the cloud or are planning to move to the cloud in the next year or two, I think using a solution that is cloud native, I think it's probably the best way to go. As I explained in the presentation, we sit on the public cloud. We are not a cloud provider that sits on our own infrastructure. So I think this is probably our main advantage.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Oren. So if you guys have nothing else, I suppose it's a good time to call this off. It's been exactly 1 hour. So thank you so much for your presentation. I hope it was interesting for everyone attending. And if you can provide us the link, I think the meeting has been recorded as well. So maybe for those of us who couldn't attend but they register, if this will be available, probably will be a great idea. Other than that, thank you very much, Oren and Yaniv, and hope to see you on the next event with ProVision.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming in.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.